Hello, hello, hello. This is Gresh from the I Am CEO podcast, and I have a very special guest on the show today. I have Kathryne Carter of Grace and Virtue Events. Kathryne, it's awesome to have you on the show.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
No problem. Super excited to have you on for all the awesome things that you're doing. And before we jumped in, I want to read a little bit more about Kathryne so you can hear about all those awesome things that she's doing. And Kathryne is the owner of Grace and Virtue Events, a wedding and event planning company based in Silver Spring, Maryland. She planned her mother and stepfather's wedding in 2009, which was her first wedding. Her business name is based on a scripture given to her by her mother. Kathryne is passionate about the event planning process, being creative, and working with couples and small businesses in developing business relationships with other vendors. She is a board member of the Association of Wedding Professionals of Greater Washington, D.C. She has been featured on the Hue I Do wedding podcast, and her styled shoots have been featured in the online blogs United with Love and Storyboard Wedding. Kathryne, are you ready to speak to the I'm CEO community?
I am. I'm so excited.
Me too. I'm excited to have you on as well too. So I know I touched a little bit on what I call your CEO story and how you got started. Could you take us through a little bit more of that and let us know exactly how you got started with all the awesome work you're doing?
Yeah, so I was actually thinking about this when we had spoke earlier, and I was like, when did I start thinking about becoming a planner? But it was really not a lifelong like dream or anything. And
Mhm.
I was talking to my mom, and I was just kind of like, I feel like I've always been a planner. Like I just always have had those skills, and I was an RA in college, and like just always planned things. And so when my mom and my stepdad were gonna get married, it was like, okay, I need to help you guys. Like, we need to get this in order. We need to make this happen. And it just kind of like just clicked. And it dawned on me like, oh, like I could do this. Like this is, I enjoy this. I have the skills for this. And, of course, my family was very happy and very pleased with, all the things that went on. And so I started to do other events for families and friends and really kind of found that I do enjoy this. I've been in special education for 13 years and I kind of do planning in that role as well. And I just kind of carried it over and love it so much.
Yeah.
And ultimately, I really I love helping people. I love like problem solving and like figuring out, let's have this event, let's figure out how to make it happen. So I just enjoy it.
Nice. Yeah, I absolutely love that. And so many times we sometimes forget our gifts and we have our gifts. And a lot of times it manifests itself in different ways, as you talked about being a special education teacher, obviously all the awesome work that you're doing now. And so many
Mhm.
times we want to make sure we can find our gifts. And often our gifts are the things we've been doing for years and years and years and don't even
Right.
consider it to be anything that everybody else can't do, but it's really our
Right.
zone of genius. And it starts to kind of showcase itself in so many different ways.
Yeah. It's just one of those things where like, oh, that could be like a job. Like, oh, I could do that. Oh, okay. And
Yeah.
it's been great.
Uh-huh. It also often feels like we're cheating when we're able to do that. So it's great that
Yes.
you've been able to find that and help so many other people. And so I wanted to drill down a little bit deeper and hear more on how exactly you help support the clients you work with. Could you take us through a little bit more about what you do and what exactly that process looks like?
Absolutely. So I primarily provide planning and coordination services for weddings and social events. And I do that for families, couples, and I'm really trying to get more into doing small business events and working with small businesses like myself to really help them, coordinate things that they want to celebrate and things like that. And so I offer either month of planning and coordination services for couples or full planning. And then for small business events and family events, those services are customized to kind of figure out what their needs are and how to best help them implement the event to the best of my ability. And then also I provide proposal and engagement packages. So helping those who are looking to propose pop the question in an organized manner. So, yeah. And then I also provide um, social events for couples. And I actually started a series called Love Seat Conversations
Nice.
and help couples get together, socialize. Of course, the pandemic impacted us doing that in person. So we've been doing virtual date nights monthly. And we have a private Facebook group where couples can like socialize. And so we're trying to help couples kind of gather together on a virtual platform until we can get into person. So my main focus is, supporting my clients in all aspects. And so we really try to meet the needs of the client.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. And I love the different ways and different types of events as well, too, that we kind of talked about, from you being able to kind of organize that. But it definitely sounds like, correct me if I'm wrong, like when you have that event, it's like a very special occasion. And
Mhm.
you want to make sure that it showcases, everything that, you do, that you stand for, and is a kind of extension of you. So I imagine that make it sound super simple, but I imagine there's a lot more that's involved in really trying to understand the client and make sure that they have that really phenomenal event.
Absolutely. It really takes like a good ear to like listen and kind of really say, back to the client, like, I hear you saying this. When you say this, I get this idea and I get
Mhm.
very excited about ideas. And so
Mhm.
sometimes I have to remember to like calm down. It's okay. I don't want to overwhelm clients, but like I love what I do. And so when I hear them saying like what they envision and how they talk about like, oh, I have this idea, but I don't know how to implement it. I'm like, don't worry about it. I got that. Like,
Mhm.
I'll figure it out. But I love hearing them talk about what makes them happy and then trying to incorporate that into whatever it is that we're planning, whether it's a wedding, a birthday party, or, what have you. Like, it's exciting.
Yeah, and I definitely hear that passion, coming out and being able to kind of be that person that's able to pull so many different things. Like if somebody really enjoys this or they really want a spotlight that, to be able to pull all those things into a really phenomenal event is definitely an
Yeah.
art, and it's great to hear that you've been able to execute on that.
Yeah, and I think about like I had a client recently and it's like once you get past that like idea stage and you start getting into the implementation, clients definitely start to get nervous and
Mhm.
very valid because now we're in a situation where last minute things can change, restrictions and all these different types of things. So I try to do my very best to reassure clients like I'm always thinking about a plan B, like that's a part of my services that I provide, always having in the back of my mind, okay, if we can't do XYZ, we need to be able to change it up and do this instead. And just really making sure that clients know that like ultimately your my goal is to implement your vision. However, I am capable of like changing things on the fly to like make sure that like we still have your event. We had to tweak things along the way. And that's okay. I try to, some people get really anxious about that and it's it's understandable.
Yeah, considering everything that's, been happening and it has happened, it can get overwhelming, I imagine, as well too. But it's great to
Mhm.
hear. And I even usually say, like, I feel like the word of the year is pivot, because you've had to
Mhm.
change from this, then change from that, and literally all of
Yep.
us in some form, shape or fashion. So it's great to hear that you understand that. And I think sometimes
Yeah.
people just want to be heard and know that they have somebody to lean on that has that plan B and that other option of, if X, Y, and Z happens, we can adjust and make those movements and changes. So I love that you do that.
Yeah.
Um, would you consider that to be what I call your secret sauce, the thing you feel kind of sets you apart? Is that ability to, of course, be able to synthesize all that information, but also be prepared if any and all things might happen?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I feel like being able to be flexible and like always knowing that there's a plan B or that there's another option or a different way. I think I don't remember if it was a podcast or something, but I heard someone say the answer is never no, it's yes, but or yes,
Mm,
and right. So, like, a client may be asking for something and it may be that like yes I can do that but I might have to do it this way,
mhm.
or yes and I might have to add this or take away something, like it's usually the answer is usually not no. It's like it may not be the way that a client may have originally planned for it, but it's let me think about that or let me figure out how way I can implement that while still capturing your interest or adding an additional component that nobody else has had to it, things like that. I think also my secret sauce is being able to support relationships. I think like to the bare bottom of things, it's like I want to support your relationship and not just you know you're on your wedding day, but like from beginning to, throughout your marriage. And so being able to provide those love seat conversations, opportunities, and being able to connect with different vendors who provide services beyond just the wedding industry. So I've worked really hard to network with other vendors who are in, realtor and financial advisors and different areas that along a couple's life journey, they can say, hey, you know what? We want to buy a house. I'm looking for a realtor. You know what? I know these really great people. Check these people out. Or I know, you know, a really great financial advisor. Like, did you start thinking about planning for retirement or planning for your family's future? Like those different things. So I think I have a multiple like level of secret sauces just because I think having all the things available to clients is helpful. And it really comes down to like the bottom line is like, I want to help support you for your life.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. And I think the best secret sauces have many ingredients that incorporate, which make it unique to us. And I love how you highlighted all those things. I love that, solution oriented aspect that you spoke to, where it's not no, it's yes, but, or yes, and you have to
Hmm.
really kind of, figure out how that adjustment will be made, but it's definitely possible. I think when we start to look at things through that, we always see what's possible, not what's not possible, which sometimes we can
Yeah.
get into the mind of. And I love that relationship piece that you spoke to. Obviously, in romantic relationships, but I think that often in business and entrepreneurship, we forget about that relationship piece too. And I love how you have built your foundation of everything that you're doing upon that and help that, whether that be somebody getting married, somebody that's looking for a relationship, or even somebody that maybe has an event launch that they're trying to do as well.
Yeah. I think one of the things that I found interesting and funny and great was that while I was launching Love Seat Conversations and focusing on couples, like I got a few people interested in singles events, and I was like, oh, okay, yes, I have to think about that. I have to add that. Yes, that's something that we can do. It's like something came out of something else that I was
Mhm.
creating, and so hopefully I can definitely add a singles component eventually to that. Um, but yeah, it's like those relationships are so important.
Yeah. Especially in this time, I feel like this has brought more light to, having those people that you care and are close to, and building and kind of refining those relationships. Cause it's definitely been, a topsy turvy time to say the least. So
Oh yes, for
awesome.
all
So
of us.
exactly, all of us collectively. And I wanted to switch gears a little bit, and I wanted to ask you for what I call a CEO hack. So this could be like an app, a book, or a habit that you have, but what's something that makes you more effective and efficient?
So one of my habits is I write everything down so that, I can always come back to it later. And I realized in the beginning of the pandemic, I had lists everywhere. So I had
Mhm.
lists on my laptop, lists on my phone, like all these things, because I love lists. And I wanted to become more focused and effective and have at least one running list so that I could access it on my phone, on my tablet, on, whatever. So I started to organize on my list and I started using Trello, which is a task management tool to help me organize like my client projects and the behind the scenes, of my business. The thing I like about Trello is you can have as many boards as you like. For me, I just felt it was easier to have two boards. So I have one for like the behind the scenes of my business and one for client projects. And within those two boards, of course, I have like multiple tabs and things that I can keep track of. For my business, I have like my 30-day goals, my 60-day goals, my 1 year goals. Um, and I was talking to someone a few weeks ago and I was like, I love using this. I'm like, I have to put it into my calendar to like check these things often so that I'm constantly, checking up on my goals and how it's going. But I love using Trello and I love that it helps me kind of stay organized. And I still have like one separate list, but I was able to organize like the majority of it. And I can keep ideas in there. I can keep projects in there. Keep track of like where my client projects are, and at the end of the year, it also helps me track, how was my year, right? Like how many completed projects that I have versus, how many projects that we're still working on. What is left that we have to do. Um, so I really appreciate that platform, and I also love a good list.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think especially, being able to kind of kind of have one place where all the things are is so
Hmm.
huge. And I think that
Yeah,
you mentioned that it is so underrated with the amount of things that you have to juggle running a business, to be able to not lose that idea, but to also know where your client is, and be able to figure out all the to do things that you have to do and have that in one
yeah,
place is extremely powerful. And I've heard that Trello definitely has a really nice interface as well too, that makes it more aesthetically pleasing than sometimes the other
yeah.
kind of project management platforms.
And I like that they have templates, but like I'm a visual person, so I looked at
Mhm.
templates and I kind of like created things from different templates that I liked because I'm a creative, right? So I
Mhm.
am a visual person. So I had to change and tweak things to kind of fit my business. And I think that's totally fine. Like practice it with it, play with it, get to know it if you think that's something that, you want to use and try it out.
Absolutely. And I think it speaks to our systems and processes evolve and they change over time. So you always want to
Mhm.
be kind of looking and seeing what the templates are in our business, or even outside of our businesses, see what people are doing. And I think that allows you to evolve and change and to continue to get better and grow.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. So I wanted to ask you now for what I call a CEO nugget. And this could be a word of wisdom or piece of advice. It might be something you would tell a client, or if you hopped into a time machine, you might tell your younger business self.
I would say you can't do all the things.
Mhm.
There are so many things as a business owner that you should be doing, you're supposed to be doing, you have to be doing. Um, I think it's important to take the time to learn those things and listen and take it all in. It can definitely feel overwhelming. I know, I'm still kind of early in my business, but it's I definitely was overwhelmed at one point, but like, I'm not doing this. I should be doing this. And I think it's important to, I remind myself to remember, like, take it in. Does it align with the brand and the business that I have? Does it align with my goals? And if it doesn't, I have to learn that it's okay. Um, Put it on a shelf, on the back burner. It might be a tool that like I might share with you and say, "Hey, Gresh, like I found out this really cool thing. It didn't work for me, but I think it might work for you." Like, and be able to share that information. But just remember that sometimes you just need to listen to the advice, take a beat, see how you feel about it, and then determine if it's something that you want to implement in your business or something that you just want to hold on to for a later date, or share it with someone. And I think learning that it's okay to do that, it's a process. It took me some time. It's a daily like reminder for myself to like, I don't have to do all the things. It's okay. And what I'm doing is okay. And I think there is a phrase like started is better than perfect, or like there's
Mhm.
different variations of that. um and I totally agree. It's like if you implemented something and it's not perfect, it's okay. If you learned a tool, like prime example for me, for my website, I started my website, I did all the edits, and every time I learned something new, I implemented in my website. So like my website today looks so different from when I first started. And thank God, because I learned so many different tools, right? And it just, means that I'm growing as a business owner, I'm growing as a person. So just take a beat and be kind to yourself and
Mhm.
know that we're all in this together, and you can't do all the things.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's so funny, because I've been, since the pandemic and everything. My big thing is to make sure I say it and also remind other people is that you give yourself grace, because I think so many times we can beat ourselves
Yes.
up worse than anybody else. But I think that in business, there's always something you need to be doing, or you should have done, or should be doing.
Mhm.
It can get very overwhelming, and I think
Yes.
if we try to remind ourselves that it's a marathon, and that done is better than perfect, which is another variation for you of
Yeah.
that. We start to understand that it's not in being perfect, because we probably will never ever get there. It's in
Right.
the evolving, the changing, the growing. Even if we make mistakes, learning from those mistakes, it's a whole entire
Yes.
process. And I think if we can hold peace in the process more than the destination or where we should be, then I think that gives us a little bit more peace, so that we can focus on, really, doing and growing our business and serving our clientele.
That is so true. And we have to, like you said, remember not to be angry at ourselves or like, whatever, just because we made a mistake. Like, when you start a business, it doesn't come with like a handbook, right? Otherwise,
Yeah,
that
right.
handbook would be like a billion pages. We wouldn't
Yeah.
get through it, right? It's a learning process. And so, enjoy the process. I would definitely say to people, who are wanting to be business owners and starting businesses, like grow, learn, to soak it all in. And like you said, give yourself grace.
Mhm. Absolutely. And so I now wanted to ask you my absolute favorite question, which is the definition of what it means to be a CEO. And we're hoping to have different quote unquote CEOs on the show. So, Kathryne, what does being a CEO mean to you?
It means being courageous. Like I have been thinking about this question because I was like, oh gosh, what is a CEO? Like, do I consider myself a CEO and like all of these things? And um, I really think for me, it just comes down to being courageous, taking risks. In the beginning um, of my business career, I was afraid. Like, is this idea too cheesy? Is this too
Mhm.
corny? Should I do it? Like, just second guessing myself all the time. And it was just kind of like, after so many conversations with friends and family and things like that, it was just like no, I got this. Like, I believe in God, and it's like I don't think that He would put this in my heart and on my mind if it wasn't something that I was meant to do. So I just need to follow my passion, and take those risks and be courageous. It is going to be scary at times. I believe that being a CEO and a business owner means that you're just going to continue to conquer those fears. Um, and continue to believe in what you believe in and put yourself out there, and that it will work out, and that you will learn the tools and tricks and strategies that you need to help you implement those ideas. I think that if it's in your heart and in your mind, you already have what's in you to implement it. So take that leap and be courageous.
Nice. I absolutely love that definition and that perspective. And I think that so many times it can be nerve-wracking kind of running a business, especially, starting up and even as you go to each level, it's always a different kind
Yes.
of challenge that you have and you have to summon up that courage, so to speak, to be able to go there. But I love what you said too about sometimes, God-given gifts. I always go back to the parable of the talents, which is my absolute favorite kind of I guess, parable around entrepreneurship, because I feel like
Mhm.
we're all giving specific gifts, and those gifts are
Mhm.
for us to showcase to the world. So a lot of times we're looking outwardly for things that we need to be able to achieve whatever mission we have. But a lot of
Yeah.
times we have everything we need within us, and we just need to summon up that courage and that strength
Yeah.
and go forward with that. So I love and I appreciate that definition.
I think it's a growth path, right? Like we're always looking for like, oh, where's the path lead? Like it's growth and taking you to the next
Mhm.
step. And you know, it's not a short-term race. Like you said, it's a marathon. These are long-term goals. And so your path is not necessarily going to be straight getting there. It's probably going to take you in all different types of curves and loops and stuff. But um, it's worth it, I think.
Yeah, I definitely would echo that. And I think it's interesting if you look at the stories of the most successful people, so to speak, they're not straight at all. They're very windy and they're
Yes.
very ups and down and topsy-turvy as the time we're going through today. So
Yes.
truly, appreciate that perspective, appreciate that definition again. And what I wanted to do is pass you the mic, so to speak, just to see if there's anything additional you want to let our readers and listeners know. And of course, how best they can get a hold of you and find out about all the awesome things that you're working on.
Absolutely. So first, I want to just thank you, Gresh, for this opportunity, and thank you for this platform to know what it is to be a CEO, and that it looks like all different types of things, and to be able to listen to other people who've been on your podcast and all of the different advice and things and gems that they have to share. So I'm truly thankful for that. Um, People can find me on social media, so at Grace and Virtue Events. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest, with at Grace and Virtue Events, and for Twitter, it's Grace and Virtue _ Um, and then my website, so www.graceandvirtueevents, all spelled out.com. So yeah.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Well, we'll definitely have those links and information in the show notes as well too. I thank you for being, one of the awesome guests that we've had on the show, so that we can learn, so much words of wisdom, for you as well too. And I appreciate, the foundation of your business, the reminders of that you gave us about, relationship and being able to build and grow that in so many different ways. So appreciate you again, and I hope you have a phenomenal rest of the day.
Thank you so much.
All right, and I'll cut it off here.